For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, so the market's mixed in Asia Pacific, as you'd expect, if you're a regular watcher of this program, because of the US inflation figures which are out later today, and that's clearly going to be the thing that moves the markets one way or the other. But we have big news from Japan, where Kazuo Ueda has been officially appointed the central bank governor, the Bank of Japan governor. He's known as a monetarist expert. He's also known as the Ben Bernanke of that particular area. That's a reference to a previous chairman of the Fed who guided, whether you like it or not, but he guided the US economy through the financial crisis, and this is what Mr. Ueda will have to do in Japan. He's known as an expert on monetary policy, and the markets are really waiting for him. Big question this morning: where have all the Chinese tourists gone? If you remember, we were talking about the Lunar New Year. They have not come to Europe. They have not gone to Australia, Canada, Japan, or not yet at least. They have gone to Southeast Asia. They've gone to Bangkok, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Manila, Bali, and so on. Now, the reason why people want to know where these people have actually gone is, of course, the Lunar New Year is the biggest traveling event in the Chinese year. Huge amount of journeys being taken, over 1 billion journeys being taken. Where did those people spend their money? And this is actually crucial to a lot of economies, and they certainly didn't go on the normal tourist route because of all the visa restrictions and so on. We are going to get a budget today in Singapore. It's promised to be a Valentine's Day present of a budget. It's supposed to be helping all those people who got laid off. It's also going to somehow counter the effects of inflation, commodity, thus food prices are very high within the country, but that's what's promised, a Valentine's Day present. I wonder what that will reveal. As far as the United States is concerned, again, let's not get too worked up about where Wall Street is going. It had a positive day yesterday, but those all-important inflation figures out from the United States later today. If you remember, headline inflation, the CPI figure, declined 0.1% in December. Question is, was that peak inflation? Is it coming down? What does that mean for interest rates, etc.? And really, we're going to see also results from Coca-Cola and Airbnb, which should show which way the US consumer may well be headed. As far as Ford's concerned, now this is an interesting one. Remember that we've been talking a lot about Tesla and electric vehicles and so on. Now, Ford is one of those big manufacturers, rather like GM, that's coming into the EV business. And what will that mean for the various rivals? What it's doing, it's opening a $3.5 million plant in Michigan. Now, what it's doing is it's doing it with the Chinese, but it's getting round the sort of restraints that have been put on US-China trade by having what's described as it's not a joint venture, but what they're doing is they're being helped by a wholly owned subsidiary of a Chinese company. Opening 2026 and 2,600 jobs it's expected there. Here's an important move as far as the United States is concerned in the bigger picture. Joe Biden has appointed Lael Brainard as his top economic advisor, the White House National Economic Council. She's going to head that. Now, she's known particularly, and this is what the markets are interested in this morning, or will be interested in later today, is the fact that she is very much pro-infrastructure, she's pro-stimulus, and this is precisely, I suspect, what Biden wants before he goes into the full-term elections in a year or so's time. Amazon is going big on bricks and mortar. If you remember, it invested a huge amount. It bought $13.7 billion worth of Whole Foods, and it's that grocery division has not done very well. Well, Andy Jassy, who is the head of head of Amazon has been saying now that they're going to double down, as he puts it, on their grocery offering. So that's actually quite big. As far as the United States is concerned, their Liberty Group, which is run by the so-called cowboy operator, US Liberty Global, has built a 5% stake in Vodafone. Now, why is that? Well, what they expect is that Vodafone will do a lot better. It couldn't have done a lot worse, to be absolutely honest with you. It's not doing very well as a company, but this is a 5% stake. What Liberty is not asking for is a seat on the board. They're just taking a 5% stake. Their CEO, the Liberty CEO, is saying that this is merely because the stock is relatively cheap at the moment. But anyway, you heard it. You heard it here, and maybe there's more to come from Vodafone. Let's turn our attention to the UK, and once again, a call for industrial strategy. For heaven's sake, what is the government doing? Why is it not providing subsidies? This is what the semiconductor bosses are saying, that rival those in the United States and Europe, because if the industry is saying they don't get those from the government, remember the budget here on March the 15th, then they may well relocate to other countries as well. And according to one of the top rate setters in the UK, this is a gentleman called Jonathan Haskell. Now, he's not he's not a direct member of the Monetary Policy Committee, but he's certainly part of it. What he's saying is that Brexit has cost the UK's economy £29 billion. That's 1.3% of GDP, and it may be even more as the exit from our ties with Europe have, in his words, slowed productivity and increased business costs. And finally, oil. Well, as you can imagine, oil is paid for in dollars, as you know, and therefore very much dependent upon the strength of the dollar, which in turn is dependent upon the inflation figures in the United States, which brings us back full circle in our global view this morning.
We all know that the UK was going to lose money, and all that talk about Singapore on Thames and the curvature of a banana was just misalignment of logic in the argument for Brexit. We all knew that the UK was going to lose money despite all of that. But I want to move on to something that is really very critical. The Republicans keep hounding Joe Biden for something. Despite the fact that Joe Biden says, yeah, inflation is trending downwards, they keep saying it's at an all-time high. And it is difficult to wriggle your way out of this. They keep reminding you of the inflation targets. Despite the fact that productivity is looking up, it's still a lot problematic in the UK. How do you think Joe Biden can, position himself properly, since there are indications he still wants to run in the next election cycle, that he has actually done well for the economy? Because the narrative is not penetrating.
No, true. Never a truer word was spoken, if I may say so. Look, here's how I see it. And once again, I'm not a political analyst. All I can say is I think the appointment of somebody like Lael Brainard, who is pro-stimulus, thus pro-infrastructure, thus pro-Democrat, thus pro-Joe Biden, will probably help things. I mean, inflation, I think we should, whilst we keep thinking about these inflation targets, what I keep saying is, look, inflation is the measure of the rise of prices. It's not a measure of the cost of living. And I think this is what is hitting Americans as well. We're going to hear later today from Coca-Cola and Airbnb, for example, which will show us which way the US consumer is going. And we're going to see those inflation figures from the United States as to whether and that will give us some idea as to whether Biden or Jerome Powell, whichever you think is the more important in that particular equation, actually manages a soft landing in the United States. That's what the United States is after. Now, I know more about this than you do. We have to see what the inflation figures actually are. But if they are cooling, if they're showing it's cooling and coming off, then Joe Biden will claim that as an economic victory. But remember, it's, as I keep saying, inflation is the rate of price increases. It does not necessarily refer to the rising cost of living. Very important we understand that.
All right,
so,
well,
I mean, the jury's out.
Yeah, well, still on inflation, let's talk about inflation in the UK this time. So the Office of National Statistics has released reports and figures that wages have increased, has grown in the fastest in the last 20 years. In fact, in the last year, it grew by 6.7%. However, when adjusted with inflation rate, it is seen that wages in the UK have actually fell by 2.6%. So it's this conversation around inflation, wages, and so it means that people are actually earning less, despite the fact that their wages have seen an increase in the past few years. I'd just like you to speak on that because the figures have just been released. And very quickly as well, in the UK, since you talked about Amazon in the US, just a review on Amazon in Coventry, the strikes, and the fact that they're saying that on February 28th, they're going on a strike, March 11 and March 2nd, another strike, and for another 1 week in March. And yet the bosses are saying we're not negotiating, we don't see you, we don't acknowledge you as a union. What's the way forward there?
Well, let's do Amazon first of all. I mean, yes, the UK workers are announcing that kind of strike. What Amazon is doing is saying, look, they're really not addressing that right now. They will have to. There's no question about that. And I think the Staten Island thing was very, very important as far as Amazon's makeup is concerned. But what they're saying is we're going to remain agile and they're going to double down on their grocery business. That's where they want the business headlines to go. That's what they're saying. We're going to be dependent upon bricks and mortar for it instead of just online. I agree with you. I think that right at the heart of all this is still a very much unresolved labour dispute, and that will continue in their various operations around the world. The workers will feel, or the unionised workers will feel, they got off to a good start as far as the Staten Island judgment was concerned, and I suspect that Coventry will feel exactly the same kind of thing. Now, with union representation comes a cost, of course, because they have to pay to become a member of that particular union. Whether they actually do it directly or indirectly, it still costs them money. I feel as though here you have a company which is feeling its way forward. It's incredibly profitable, but it's still, as you quite rightly say, has not solved this problem. And I think the union problem is really at the heart of their business operation, and it will take a while to resolve that. Yes, certainly.
Okay, let's talk first about UEDA, the 71-year-old academic economist who has been nominated as the Bank of Japan governor from April, when the present occupier out of his leaves. The other thing, of course, is that two other persons have been appointed as nominees for the position of deputy governor. The question is, what are we likely to see? What do you think we're likely to see under UEDA? A cautious economic policy approach, or an abandonment, a movement away from the yield curve policy under his predecessor, which had been strongly criticized? So will UEDA bring Japan, align Japan's monetary policy with the Western orthodoxy with regard to high interest rates? That's the question. The second issue is about diversity. In the 140 years of the history of the Bank of Japan, women have not been appointed to the top. This time around again, the persons that will be presented before Parliament for confirmation hearings on February 24 and February 27 is an all-male cast. And here the Japanese government is always saying, oh, we believe in diversity, but we don't see that, those two issues. As for Lael Brainard, well, she comes to the job with great experience. She was economic advisor to Obama. She was international affairs expert also, and she worked also with the Clinton administration. She's been deputy vice chair, and now she will be top economic advisor. So, different scenario in the United States, but Japan specifically. Okay, so go to Tokyo, and I haven't been there for, 15 years or so, but it's still, whatever you think about it, I'm sure, diversity attracts all sorts of arguments and so on, but it is still a very, very much male and a very, very traditional society, a very much male-dominated society. I don't see much moving there. Whereas you contrast that with Lael Brainard, who has a considerable amount of mileage behind her and is pro-stimulus. I think what the new the Bank of Japan governor will try to do, Ueda will try to engineer. I'm pretty certain. I mean, again, who's to know what will happen? But
what markets are certainly hoping for is that will be some sort of soft landing within Japan, because it's been very. This man is supposed to be an expert as far as monetary policy is concerned. Again, as I said, he's called the Ben Bernanke of Tokyo, which is a reference to a previous strong member of the Fed who supposedly guided the economies through the economic turmoil of the financial crisis in 2008. So what I suspect is that what Ueda's job is to mollify the expectation of any sharp move and gradually bring the economy to as you say, a sort of state where national banks are going right now. Now, I don't know whether he will have any direct influence on where Japan goes in the rest of the world in terms of the kind of trade that Japan wants to do.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Michael Wilson. Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to other business stories in Nigeria this time. It is once again the season of love, with retailers in Africa's largest economy hoping to cash in on romantic purchases and outings. Unfortunately, the challenges of naira scarcity and fuel scarcity mean that sales may be lower this year compared to 2022. Arise business correspondent Rotu Sudiri hit the streets of Lagos to find out more. Here is his report.
And Nigerians are already dealing with how to access cash to meet their everyday needs and how to access fuel to get from point A to point B. So with that in mind, does anyone have time for the season of love? A tweet summed up the mood for Valentine's Day 2023 in Nigeria. The tweet was sent by a member of the unofficial Stingy Man's Association in Nigeria, and it said, "This year Valentine's Day will be sweet. Send funds, no network. Give me money, no cash. Sub for me," which means get me a data subscription. "Well, the bank app is under maintenance. Okay, take me out. No fuel." By the way, just to be clear, the Stingy Man Association is not actually a real association. But anyway, what is real is fuel scarcity and Naira note scarcity, which could impact how much Nigerians spend on Valentine's Day this year. It's much better news out in the West. According to a survey from the National Retail Foundation, Americans are estimated to spend $25.9 billion on Valentine's Day in 2023, up 8% from 2022, and one of the highest spending years on record. Nigerian retailers would love to get blistering sales like that. We spoke to a few of them, starting with a gift store called Party Perfect. They felt cautiously optimistic about Valentine's Day sales for 2023.
With the ton of events currently, with the Naira not available and the dollar rise, and so we are expecting more sales definitely, and we do not anticipate for a depreciating sales anyways, because we believe love leads and it's the season of love, so that's the whole point.
We also stopped by the recently renovated Circle Mall at Jakande in Lekki and spoke to a couple sales reps from Florence Kitties, selling everything from perfumes to teddy bears, flowers, and other Valentine's Day gifts. Their outlook, however, wasn't very optimistic.
So people are not willing to let go of the cash that they have to buy our stock. So it's really bad. We're hoping for the best, and maybe things will get better with time.
I know what I've made at last year compared to this year. It's really affecting us. Even to get our stock safe is a problem. To get our stock is a problem. Then when we finally get it to sell it out, oh my God, we have to talk, and market our business before it's not helping us at all. It's not helping us.
Restaurants do big business on Valentine's Day, so we spoke to the owner of Noir to find out what type of sales expectations they had from couples in Nigeria heading out on Valentine's Day to wine and dine.
Valentine is one of the busiest nights for Noir. Every Valentine we have bookings way in advance. The place is packed. We even have queues for people to enter. Also, we thank God this year is also almost the same. Definitely the fuel scarcity, the cash problem we have in Nigeria has affected business little bit. But I believe also because people are so stressed, are so tired, if they can use their POS, and we offer POS, we even offer transfers, so guests don't need to use cash. And usually in our business, you don't have much of our guests that they will pay in cash. So they come, they use their POS. So the way it's showing on my reservation book, we already have 60% occupancy for that night, for today. And I believe every day we're getting inquiries, we're getting people even sending deposit to book their space, to make sure that their tables are reserved for them. Nigerians love Valentine. They love to celebrate love, and we're here to receive them.
No Valentine's Day is complete without a card. Poetry, heartfelt messages, and the all-important "Would You Be My Valentine" in inscription are also part of the retail ecosystem on February the 14th. We spoke to sisters and business partners that run Hallmark at the Palms Mall in Lagos to get their take on their sales expectations for Valentine's Day 2023.
2023, we hope for great things this year, but so far we are halfway down from where we were in 2022. There's hope for the rest of the year. We have to remain optimistic. Foot traffic has reduced, sales and the number of transactions, but the only positive thing is the average transaction size has increased. Is that because of the exchange rate, or is that because of the desire to share more love? We are yet to find out later in the year at the Hallmark store at the Palms.
Here at the Hallmark store, we are still seeing people buying cards, spreading love, despite the challenges of the transactions not going through, despite having no cash. But people are determined to spread love this year. We look forward to a great Valentine's period. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Okay, so those are businesses. What about the people? We spoke to Lagosians and asked them if they planned on spending more or less on Valentine's Day 2023.
One cannot spend more when you have less. The situation in the country is not okay for anybody. Although we cannot fault the change of currency, our problem is that they did not make the new currency available for people. So I wonder how one can spend what it doesn't have. So as a result, I will spend less. That's the question. I will spend less. No money in the country. So when, of course, if you have a lover, the lover has to be patient with you until the economy improves. Otherwise, it's to look for someone else.
Well, I think I'm always going to be spending more, but it's more on myself than any other thing, because I know times are hard, yeah, but at this time and age, I don't think. Well, I'm old school. I don't believe in the what do you call it? The millennial things. So I'm probably going to be spending more myself this year, and that's where I'm at.
I think probably less. I think because obviously there's a lot of challenges in the country today, and Valentine's Day is typically, I would say, a high spend for me because my anniversary is the day after, so it's something that we kind of spend a lot of money on. But just because of all the pressures and uncertainty in the country, I think we'll probably be doing less this year.
I'm going to spend more, actually. Yeah, with the course and everything going on now, I'm supposed to spend less, but my guy, he deserves more, actually. Yeah, so if I have it, I do have it, so I'm going to spend more for him, because if he has the opportunity to spend more for me, he's definitely going to spend more for me too.
In addition to talking to people on the streets of Lagos, I also ran an online poll on my Twitter page asking my mostly Nigerian followers what the best gift for Valentine's Day 2023 is. 57% said new Naira notes. In second place, 20% said a keg of fuel. In third place, 16% said restaurant dinner for two. And 7% said flowers and chocolates. All in all, Valentine's Day 2023 is a mixed bag, with businesses more hopeful than anything that sales this year will exceed sales of last year. But the reality on the ground is that cash and fuel is king. Oh, thank you. What do you have here? Rhoda Sodiri, Arise News.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a good
really,
one.
really
You
good.
got a gift. But was there food in that cake?
No, at least we used to go and queue.
I mean, this is a reflection of the situation in which we have found ourselves. In the Twitter poll that Rotus conducted, more people say they want Naira notes, which is very scarce. Another 20% said they will prefer keg of fuel.
Keg of fuel, yeah.
And he got something that is symbolic in terms of, an empty keg that he could go and use to fill with fuel. But look at it, flowers and chocolates, 7%. I thought that was the standard thing that ladies look forward to. But now, flowers and chocolates. Who wants to take flowers and chocolates when you can have new Naira notes and you can have fuel? But I also saw 2 or 3 ladies there saying that they will pamper their men.
Yes.
Because the received opinion is that during Valentine, it's the man that takes care of the woman. But I see some alpha females there saying that, look, they will pamper their men, But in any case, the Valentine's Day ritual has become almost like some kind of fetish that we observe every year. But I think what Nigeria needs at the moment is the very idea of love itself. It shouldn't be only on February 14. It should be an everyday affair. And this country needs love right now as we prepare for the general elections of 2023 than at any other time. If you can just love your neighbor as yourself and people can spread love, I believe that this process, would be much smoother than we can even expect. But in a country where there's so much hate, it amounts to sheer hypocrisy for people to be taking flowers and chocolates all over the place, when really, in many cases, what they are really interested in is something else. I hope that Rotus will do a follow-up report after today to let us know the amount of condoms that were sold and used on Valentine's Day, because most people think Valentine's Day means carnal knowledge. Well, if you don't focus on the proper thing, you get the result in 9 months' time. But love on a daily basis is what we preach.
Dr. Abatsi, love is really important. Sometimes I just feel, and for me, every day is Valentine's Day, and that's why I don't make a big brouhaha out of it. Every day is Valentine's Day. Every day is a day to show love. For the fact that you've been given a gift of life, show love, lift people up. But for me, I really wish on Valentine's Day that our politicians could love the citizenry just like they love their own family members. And they could genuinely, show that love to the citizenry. And they can start by treating the people well, not getting into political positions for their own gains alone. They can start by providing succor to the people, not only during elections. That's when they provide succor and they remember to give palliatives during elections. They could have done that during COVID. We just want a country where everybody truly loves. Chad Kroger, the lead singer of the Canadian rock band Nickelback, said in a famous song that if everyone cared, nobody will die. If everyone loved, nobody will die. We'll see a day that nobody could truly die if people truly loved. And I think that should be the watchword. Politicians out there truly love the people. Don't take them for granted. Citizens truly love one another. LASMA officials, do Valentine's Day for people. Truly love. Save them the stress and the hassle. Yeah, follow the law if you have to book them. But most times, you just want to extort from them. Don't do that. Let us truly care for one another. Police officers, show love to the people. Don't bring them down or shatter them or ruin their day for any reason. Please.
All right, let me just say that retailers and the economy usually banks on days like Valentine's Day, Easter, Christmas to bump up their sales. And so in many ways, it's quite commercial. However, it still doesn't take out the spirit from it. And I'm really grateful that Rotus did that report, because I recall during Christmas, we had talked about the economic value of these, Black Friday sales, of these Christmas sales, how much money is pumped into the economy at times like this. Now, beyond that, now in the Nigerian context, I'm excited to see that despite the prevailing issues around fuel, naira scarcity, it hasn't taken away that part of us to live. The importance of days like this is beyond the money, it's psychological. Sometimes we need a break. We need a break from the politics and the issues of life and just enjoy the beauty of the world. And so that's why I'm glad. And I say happy Valentine's Day, first of all, to my husband, who has banned Valentine's Day for the next 2 years because there's too many celebrations, but also to all Nigerians who are watching. Today, take a break, be kind to yourself, be kind to Nigeria, and show us some love.